Imagine yourself doing what you love and loving what you do, smiling deep from within you, being happy from the inside out, being genuine, learning and growing and changing things to the way you know they can be, living the life you always wanted. Imagine. What will you do with your one wild and precious life? Each of us, each of our lives is precious just because we were born, and we celebrate that. Every year that I coordinate this service, I learn a little bit more about myself. I think about who I am. I live in the present, I listen deeply, and I strive to be of service to others. Every year, I feel more and more okay about myself. This service was created in 1999 by Reverend Rachel Anderson, our settled minister at the time, here at UUFRC. She created the service based on the poem A Summer Day. At the end of the poem, author Mary Oliver asks the question, what will you do with your one wild and precious life? Today, we will hear from people ranging in age from 8 years old to 95 years young, one from each decade of life. Each participant is thoughtful about life and meaning. In their own words, they will tell us what they have done, what they're gonna do with their lives, and what is important to them. As we listen to the telling of their stories, may we remember, may we learn, and may we make meaning for our own lives. And please do not applaud until everyone has spoken. To start us off, we have two representatives for our youngest wild and precious life speakers.
My name is Zoe Frank. I was born August 23rd, 2025 in San Francisco, California. Me and my family live in Redwood City, California. I live with my mom, dad, and younger sister Isabel. I go to school at North Star Academy. I'm in 3rd grade. I'm a Brownie and Girl Scout. I take gymnastics and piano lessons. I go to church almost every week except for when I get sick. My family. My mom, Jennifer, is a dental hygienist. She sometimes gardens with me on the weekends and does a lot of activities with me. My dad, Bill, is an engineer. He likes to fix things and drink coffee. My little sister's in kindergarten. She likes to draw and wakes up really early. I love her, but she can be really annoying sometimes. Should we stop there or keep going? My favorite subject in school accomplishments. My favorite school subjects will probably be science and math. I also enjoy turtle tag at PE time. When I'm not at school, I love to read. When I am not doing pencil paperwork, my favorite thing to do would probably be typing.com. One of my school accomplishments would be having the neatest desk, and I get good grades on my spelling tests. My favorite hobbies. I love drawing dragons and Among Us characters. Art's one of my favorite things. I like playing Minecraft and spawning lots of chickens. I like to play chess, and I have won at least 2 times. I like to catch the ball in baseball, and I love eating oatmeal. My future goal. I would like to be a teacher when I grow up. I want to be a teacher because I like helping people. I want to have a snake, specifically a boa, and I want to have a golden doodle dog. Fun facts about me. I can do a split roll. I can do taco tongue. I like doing math. I can do anything I put my mind to, and I got my ears pierced.
Okay, we're a combined act. Eliana, What are your goals?
One of my goals is to compete in equestrian vaulting.
What do you care about now?
I care about being me and doing what is right.
Eliana, what did you like to do when you were younger?
When I was younger, I liked to look around at all the people.
Who are you now?
I am Eliana. I am someone who is interested in learning more.
Where are you going in life today?
I am changing and growing taller.
What do you want to do when you get older?
I want to do art, all kinds of art.
What do you want to do with your one wild and precious life?
I want to use it fairly.
Hi everyone, my name is Jadzia Davidson and I'm 23 years old. I grew up in the UUFRC community, and as a kid, I was always a little jealous of my peers who were chosen to speak at this service. Little did I know, the prospect of doing so, especially with my anxious nature, is a little daunting. Since childhood, I've had a bit of an aversion to standing out, something that was not helped by my weird-sounding name and my head of bright blonde hair. I did my best to blend in, rarely speaking up in the classroom. Academics became a realm where I sought validation, particularly in this highly competitive environment. The constant internal pressure to excel academically became a double-edged sword, both a driving force and a silent adversary. The pursuit of perfection, once a source of validation, led to periods of pretty intense academic burnout, prompting a reassessment of priorities. And by the time I was 17, I felt really tired of school and chose to get an engineering degree, not because I was passionate about engineering, but because I wanted to secure what would be considered a good job after graduation without having to do any more school. Post-academic life has been a phase of reevaluation and adaptation. Without the structured academic goals that once consumed my focus, the daunting task of building a career looms ahead. The aerospace and defense internship I did, while informative, didn't exactly align with my values. Like many in my generation, I decided I wanted a job where I could work to fight climate change, leading me to my current position in clean energy at a solar company. I feel like I'm off to a good start, but the absence of clear long-term goals, coupled with the ambiguity of where to live or where to work, poses both a challenge and an opportunity. While the conventional life within the confines of an office doesn't exactly resonate with my soul, alternatives seem elusive, and the best I can do is try and find a balance. Amidst the uncertainties, there is one thing I know for sure. At some point, hopefully in the near future, I will be getting a cat or maybe even a dog. But beyond that, the prospect of no longer working, a distant but coveted goal, is something I look forward to already, as it signifies a time to relish unburdened moments, discover passions, and savor some of the simplicities in life. Above all, I aim to lead a life marked by moral fortitude, surrounded by enriching friendships and family bonds. This, to me, is the essence of my wild and precious life, a commitment to kindness, impact, and the pursuit of meaningful connections. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Abcouwer, and I'm 33 years old. As a child, I liked reading, math, science, and video games. I had a pretty basic upper middle class nuclear family, a brother and a mom and a dad. We moved around a fair bit for my father's work, including Massachusetts, New Mexico, and Pennsylvania. I loved being in New Mexico. I had a good group of nerdy friends that I could be myself around. When we moved to Pennsylvania in high school, I had trouble making friends and I became depressed. We had been going to UU churches for all my life, but the UU church in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania became a refuge, a chance to be with a different set of peers with shared values. With that safe harbor and some therapy, I was able to break out of my funk, take more risks, and become more confident. I went to college to study engineering and eventually robotics. I was active in jobs and student life, and I met my future wife, Aurelia. Together we moved to Los Angeles, where I worked at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. I was there for 8 years, working on research projects and the most recent Mars rover. Shortly after working on the rover, I left JPL to join startups in the Bay Area, and I'm making robots for the construction industry now. I love working with robots. I hope to be in this area for the foreseeable future, using them to hopefully make the world a better place. Together, Aurelia and I have a sweet son, Milo, and a rambunctious daughter, Louise. Milo's entry into the world was not an easy one. He was born at 25 weeks, and his twin brother, Calvin, unfortunately passed away. Aurelia has spent a great amount of time working with Milo, getting into therapy of every variety, and making sure that he's been able to blossom into the healthy, kind boy we see today. Aurelia is my best friend and the most important part of my life. She has been so supportive of me in changing jobs and moving here to the Bay. In the next few years, I want to support her as the kids become more independent and she decides her next move in her professional life, whatever that may be. I want to raise 2 kind young adults and make sure that my family has everything they need to succeed and be happy. And I want to spend more time doing fun activities like rock climbing and hiking and playing games with my family and my community. Thank you.
My name is Jennifer Frank. I am 45 years old. I grew up in upstate New York in a small town called Sherburne. I live with my mother, my father, and my younger sister. Although there were many good things about my childhood, I grew up in poverty with a lot of food insecurity. As a result, to this day, my pantry is overstocked. I did enjoy riding horses in my youth. I would go and do barn chores to help pay for my lessons and have that experience. I learned many valuable lessons, including hard work, perseverance, and that a little true grit goes a long way. I loved swimming as a child. I was certified as a lifeguard at the age of 15. I was a teacher's assistant for swimming lessons, and to this day, being near the water brings me a sense of inner peace. It's my happy place. It was, in fact, while assisting swimming lessons 32 years ago that I met my now husband, Bill. I enjoyed school as a child. It was a place to escape all the dysfunction that I experienced at home. I had the fortunate experience of having a few amazing elementary teachers who affirmed me and cemented my love and commitment for lifelong learning. Neither of my parents went to college, so that was something that was very important to me. At the age of 16, I became an emancipated minor and moved out on my own, supporting myself. I graduated from high school a year early, and from the age of 17 to 22, I worked many part-time and full-time jobs while attending college when and where I could. At the age of 22, I had a career or school change, and I decided that I wanted to become a dental hygienist, and I attended Broome Community College. For 2 years, I was in an intensive program while working full-time, and after graduating, I started working as a dental hygienist and continued on over the next 3 years to secure my bachelor's degree in biology. It took me 10 years to complete my degree, but it's something I'm very proud of to this day. I've lived in 4 states, New York, New Jersey, California, and DC in total. While I was living in New Jersey, I reconnected with Bill after 14 years of not seeing each other. He was living in San Francisco, and we reconnected and had a bi-coastal relationship for about a year. I then moved to San Francisco, where we then became engaged and got married in 2011. Our eldest daughter, Zoe, was born in 2015. Shortly after that, we made the trek to Washington, D.C. to be closer to our family. While in D.C., our youngest daughter, Isabel, was born in 2018, and we found our community at All Souls Church in D.C., which is a UU sister church. Shortly after, Bill was offered his dream job with Google, and within 2 short years, we made the trek back here to California, where we settled in Redwood City. We were looking for our next home, and we found it here with UUFRC. Where am I now? Currently, I am working to be certified as a myofunctional therapist and a Buteyko breathing methods specialist. I am trying not to stress too much about the state of our country or the lacks of the freedoms my daughters may not experience. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to survive the teenage years. And as I have worked really, really hard all my life, and I do look forward to slowing down and a future retirement and doing a lot more traveling. But for now, my energy is focused on my family, encouraging our daughters and supporting them as they grow and become their best selves. This is a blessing in itself. Thank you.
I am Jill Dubriel Troy Ohline. I am 55 years old. When I was in school, I learned that the trees in a forest compete with each other for sunlight, water, and nutrients. Survival of the fittest. That made sense to me. It matched what I saw in the world. I grew up just outside the city of St. Louis. From the outside, my childhood looked pretty good, aside from my parents divorcing when I was young. I did well in school, joined lots of extracurriculars in high school and college, and I never got in trouble. I became an elementary school teacher because I wanted to level the playing field and prevent my students from ever falling behind. I married my husband, Matt, and we had 2 children, filling our 30s and 40s with walks, games, family meals, library story times, the Purple Museum, lots of soccer games, and stories at bedtime. During the pandemic, I taught middle school for 1 year, something I'd never done before. As we prepared to go back in person before the vaccine was available, I was terrified. I realized I didn't trust any adult except Matt. And teaching 7th graders that year brought up part of my childhood that I had swept under the rug. I was 52, and my childhood pain was still very much under the rug. I decided I needed help. A therapist, trauma classes, and then a 12-step program. My childhood and my family tree, I realized, were riddled with addiction and intergenerational trauma. As a child, I had learned to take control of my life, survival of the fittest. I had learned that I had to take care of others, to take care of them too much, to take care of them and to be too busy with that to ever take care of myself. I'm 55 now. I have changed my life dramatically. And it turns out that scientists have learned dramatically more about the trees in a forest, how trees and fungi form a symbiotic network and create pathways for sharing water and nutrients and for communicating distress signals about drought and insect attack. What do I want to do with the rest of this one wild and precious life of mine? I want to live it. To be right here, right now. To stop living in the future, trying to control and to take care of others. To take care of myself. To feel my feelings. To share my water and nutrients with the important people in my forest. To be vulnerable and connect with others in my own symbiotic network, where we can share our distressing experiences and celebrate together. I want to accept that everyone around me is doing the best they can. I want to learn to love and accept myself as the imperfect human I am and will always be.
I was born in Richmond, California, just before the end of World War II, and I had an idyllic early childhood. My maternal grandparents lived in El Sobrante, which is close to Richmond. My dad built a house next door to it. My paternal grandmother built a house next door to that. That means we had 3 houses in a row. I had a dog. We had chickens, rabbits. My grandfather had a vegetable and flower garden. I could always find someone willing to talk to me. This lasted until I was about 7. Then my dad, who'd been in night law school, took and passed the bar. He set up practice with a friend of his in Belmont. Since then, I've only lived in the southern half of San Mateo County. I attended elementary school in Redwood City and then Belmont, and was incarcerated at Carlmont High School for 4 years. I was not athletic. I suffered from crippling shyness, and academics were never that important to me. With this trifecta of failure, I did have one thing that worked. I worked. I delivered newspapers. I worked at a hardware store. I worked at Lingso Garden Materials for several summers, and I also worked in the cafeteria at Carlmont, for the last mostly to avoid lunchtime conversations. After high school, I went to the only college that would let me in, College of San Mateo. Trying to overcome my shyness, I took public speaking classes. Imagine my shock when I looked up for my speech and saw people were actually listening to what I was saying. I joined the debate team and we did pretty well. I married when I was 21 years old. The only good thing that came from that marriage were our 3 children, and that I, forced to work at something that delivered a high income quickly, went into real estate sales. To further my real estate career, I went to law school. Once I started law school, I became so enthralled with law that I couldn't not become a lawyer. Once I passed the bar, I had to deal with the demands of my then wife, and the marriage just collapsed. But then one day my world changed forever. I met Leslie. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. I took her to dinner, and by the time it was served, I absolutely knew that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. That was about 46 years ago. The blink of an eye, and forever at the same time. I have utterly no idea how I got so lucky. We built a life together. She went to law school. We operated a practice together, ultimately shutting it down last December. We bought a house in the Emerald Hills part of Redwood City in 1983. We still live there. We had 2 children, and because we wanted them to have a religious education, we tried the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Redwood City over 30 years ago. We're still here. Just as I can't imagine what my life would be like without Leslie, I can't imagine what life would be like without UUFRC. We both served on the board. I became quite active in the Pacific Central District for several years. Leslie's still in the Personnel Committee. And I chaired the first search committee when we went from lay-led to having a minister. And then I worked with Thomas Atwood when he created Fool's Mission. But that would take at least another 3 minutes.
I am Joanne McMahon, and I approve of the message.
Morning. The morning of my 95th birthday, actually I'm going to start over because I meant to say that I am very honored to be reading my mom's words. The morning of my 95th birthday, Lori asked me, "How are you, Mom?" "I have much gratitude," I responded. "I have lived a wonderful life." I'd like to share what led me to be optimistic, grateful, and welcoming. I was born in 1929 in Long Beach, California, where I lived as an only child with loving and generous parents who were progressive in their thinking. I lived 5 blocks from the ocean, and the beach was an important part of my life, walking to the beach often with friends or by myself. During the first 10 years of my life, our country was in the midst of the Great Depression. However, we always had enough, largely because everyone was so generous. My dad owned his own garage and often bartered his mechanic skills for what we needed. We had an ice man, bread man, an egg lady, a Swedish bakery truck, and produce cart that all came to our house. My neighborhood was safe, friendly, and my parents trusted it and me, which helped me develop confidence and independence. One of the many wonderful influences in my life was Louise Bellotti, my 6th grade teacher. While in her class, I ran for vice president of the school and lost. Miss Bellotti invited those of us who had lost our elections to her house for a potluck dinner, encouraging us to continue pursuing our political activism. That was better than winning the election. More importantly, Miss Bellotti inspired us to be inclusive. We had a girl in our class who was socially isolated. Miss Bellotti encouraged the other girls in the class to form a club, which we dubbed the Mary Robbins, and invited this girl to join us, which we did. I have carried Miss Bellotti's compassionate lesson on inclusivity my whole life, and here in this sanctuary, for years on Sundays, I sought out a new face to sit next to and welcome to our congregation. My parents also inspired me to include people and to be active in the community. World War II started when I was in junior high, and in high school, I remember a strong sense of patriotism. My mom volunteered as a hostess at a club for servicemen. I attended the dances there and danced with men from all over the U.S. who were stationed in Long Beach. My parents also frequently welcomed servicemen into our home for parties. This contributed to me being comfortable and confident with strangers, open to meeting new people, having new experiences, and welcoming them warmly. In 1944, the Johnny Mercer song, Accentuate the Positive, Eliminate the Negative, Don't Mess with Mr. In-Between, was released. I was 15, and this message has stayed with me my whole life. In 1947, I went to New York City with the College Summer Service Group, where 40 of us college students lived and worked in settlement houses in economically disadvantaged neighborhoods, where residents could come for recreation, meetings, and social functions. During this summer, we assisted community groups working to desegregate public swimming pools and studied politics, religion, finances, and racial justice. I realized at this time what an important influence Eleanor Roosevelt was to me and still is. Coincidentally, she also volunteered in a settlement house in New York City before marrying Franklin. And not coincidentally, my mother has Eleanor Roosevelt on her socks. Check them out. After receiving my bachelor's in education from Whittier College, I began teaching and met Claire, who I married in 1952. As young educators, we lived in Sacramento, then La Honda, and finally settled in Millbrae, where we became parents first to our son Tom, then Lori. After briefly attending 2 other UU fellowships, we became members of the UU Church in San Mateo, and then, since 1985, this fellowship. We were active in both churches, and I served as president of the board in San Mateo, and here as RE director, member of the worship committee for 30 years, co-chair of the caring committee, among other duties. Currently, I lead our MOCA team. It has been important to me to stretch my leadership and activism muscles with my UUFRC community. And in our family and careers, the UU values were so important to Claire and me as we shared our lives together. While serving as president of my children's co-op nursery school, I learned the value of parent involvement in childhood education. So when both my kids were in elementary school, I began a 23-year career as teacher and then director of the San Mateo Parents Nursery School. I taught 2 to 5-year-olds as well as teaching early childhood education to adults through the College of San Mateo. I went back to school to get my master's in interdisciplinary studies at San Francisco State, and I retired in 1989. And of my 23 years at the nursery school, something I'm very proud of is advocating for funding for state preschool. In our retirement, Claire and I were able to continue fulfilling a lifelong dream of travel, which we had started in 1958 with our first trip abroad, followed by extensive traveling with our children. However, in retirement, we were able to step up our travel with trips to many places throughout the world. We enjoyed visiting libraries and schools in different countries in our quest to learn about other cultures. When I first retired, I continued my service to my community by becoming an active member of the Friends of the Millbrae Library. I consider my role spearheading the building of the new public library one of my greatest achievements. Besides travel and my library work, a significant event in my retirement was becoming a grandma. In 1993, my grandson Kevin was born, and I was able to spend much time with him. He is very special to me, and we share a love and appreciation of art and Buddhism. Claire and I were married for 52 years, and as we aged together, we learned you have to have a sense of humor when you're old. When faced with adversity, such as Claire's Parkinson's diagnosis, I would often repeat my mantra of everything works, and Claire would roll his eyes. How do I want to live this wild and precious life? I intend to continue living the rest of my life to the fullest. You never know what will happen 5 minutes from now is ingrained in me and helps me achieve this goal. Besides a positive attitude, the everyday help of Lori, her husband Marty, friends, neighbors, and of course the support of this fellowship helps me do just that. Thank you.